And there's captions if anybody wants them. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Claire Bradley. I am the DNA Studies co-director here at the school, and you're very welcome to our August DNA Studies meeting. What I thought we would do in this session is talk about brick wall problems that you have with DNA and maybe workshop some ideas on how to resolve them. But before we get into that, I just have a few, what I'm going to call parish notes of things that have come up recently in the DNA genealogy world, in case you're not aware of them. And I'm going to just very quickly share my screen and show you those. Okay, so hopefully you will be able to see. Can you see the right thing now? Please tell me you can. Okay, so the first thing I want to just highlight a few things that are new at Family Tree DNA. And the first one is to do with Big Y. And I'm aware that everyone in this group today is a woman, and so they won't have taken a Big Y test. But you may be managing one for a man in your family. And I got my brother to take the Big Y test earlier on this year. It's quite a big financial investment. It's usually around $350, $400. There's a bit of a sale on at the moment, Family Tree. I won't go into it, but if you check, you'll see that they have some sale options at the moment. They have a new thing, which is a match time tree, and I'm going to show you that in a second. I also just want to mention that Roberta Estes, who's a very well-known DNA blogger, wrote a book, A Complete Guide to Family Tree DNA, which came out earlier in the summer. I reviewed it on my blog. And it's very good, step by step, on how to analyze each test, what the test does, and so on. But it's already out of date. And it's already out of date because of this, that Family Tree DNA have done a deal with MyHeritage. And we're going to go into what this means. They're now linking your tree to a tree on MyHeritage. So first, I'd just like to show you the time tree. So this is a Big Y. This is a screenshot of Big Y from my brother, and I've protected everybody's identity there by covering up their names. And when you look at a Y test, sometimes it can be a little bit incomprehensible. You can say, oh, I don't really know what these numbers mean. I don't really understand how recently these two people were related to each other. And this is one of their attempts to try and help you with that. So this is my brother at the end here, this last person. And so this is his line here, the orange one. And it's showing me that of the people who've taken Big Y who match him, you can see that they still go quite a long time back before we connect. So you can see here that this branches off here a couple of times, and one of them branches off in the middle of the first millennium. And then this one, which is the most recent one, is still probably just around the 13th to the 15th century. So really well outside the genealogical time frame for Irish records. And these two people, and this guy even further back, this is, by the way, the symbol of the Isle of Man. So that person must be in the Isle of Man. And the Isle of Man is in the Irish Sea between Ireland and Britain. And even longer ago, that person branched off. So, you know, what this tells me is that there isn't really much point in me looking for connections with these people at the moment. I don't need to spend lots of time on it because it's highly, highly unlikely that I'm going to find records in Ireland that are going to go back this far that link me. But this, and I don't mean to show you this as a downer, because lots of people will have many, many Big Y matches and they'll be more recently related. And what I could do here as well is I could test other men in the family to enhance the database. So my uncle is also tested, not at Big Y, but at the lower level on the older style tests, 111 marker. And he is an exact match to my brother at all levels. And he was not a surprise uncle. We already knew he was our uncle, and he's confirmed on autosomal tests as well. So I could if I tested him as well, it might reveal some of the private variations that we have in the family and might give us some more. But just I wanted to show you that how you get into it from the Big Y homepage is you go to your haplogroups reports section. And then in there, down the left, there's a whole load of different options. And one of them is match time tree option. So that's where that comes from. So I want to just get on now to talking about the MyHeritage family tree DNA merger. I mean, they're not companies that are merging, but I do wonder, is this a first step towards something happening with those companies? So basically, if you've used family tree DNA, you'll be aware that you log in individually for each kit and you build a tree for each kit. And of course, there may well be people who are this, in the same family. I have a number of kits there from the early days. And what they've decided to do is retire their tree building facilities. So they're not going to remove the facilities, but after the 9th of September, the trees that already exist on family tree DNA will become read-only. So what they are offering is that you can link your tree to MyHeritage for free and gain access to what they are saying is improved family tree building tools and so on. So when you first log into family tree DNA at the moment, if you haven't already linked to your test, you get this message and you click on this blue button to learn more. And then it brings you to this screen behind. And then if you say get started now, it pops up with this. And this is important. You should consider whether you're going to do this or not. So it's connecting your kit to MyHeritage. So it's giving you the tester's full name, their date of birth, their primary email address. And if you're importing your tree that's on family tree DNA, as opposed to using a tree that you have on MyHeritage, it will take those details as well. And you see, it says your GEDCOM will only be transferred if you move your tree over. So I already use MyHeritage as well, and I have a subscription there. Now, many people might not have a subscription on MyHeritage, so that's perhaps a downside for some people, that if they want to use the tree builder on MyHeritage and they want to have a tree that has more than 250 people in it, you have to pay. So if you're happy to go ahead with this, you click approve, then it links you off immediately to MyHeritage so that you can log into your MyHeritage account. Then you get a verification code to your email. Now, I want to say that if you have multiple kits like me, I have heard anecdotally that people are getting locked out if they try to log into MyHeritage too many times in a row. So I've been doing them piecemeal. I've done a couple of them here, and then I went off and did something else, and then a couple of days later I did a couple more. So just to be aware of that. It brings you back to your family tree DNA account, and then you go to your account settings and go to genealogy, and you'll see that it now says your family tree DNA account is currently connected to MyHeritage and view your tree. I've just blocked the details there, and you can disconnect it there if you wish. And then you need to link yourself or whoever owns the kit into the tree in MyHeritage so that it can begin to link the matches again for you. So this is something that threw me, and I wanted to show you it in case you got thrown by it as well. When I went to link home person, it opens up my MyHeritage tree and it says search, and it says found 25 results, and it displays those people. They're all people who are direct ancestors of mine a long time ago. And I said, 25 results? There's way more than 25 people in my tree on MyHeritage. What's going on here? But fear not, if you actually just begin to type into the box the name that you're looking for, they will come up. And crucially here, you want to type exactly the same way as your name is on your family tree account if you've imported it. Or, I have a number of people in my tree called Michael Bradley. It's a name that's in the family. And when I was connecting my brother, I went to look and it didn't seem to be finding my brother. And I thought, do I not have my brother in my tree? It can't be right. And what I found is that I had put my brother's middle initial in to differentiate him, and I had forgotten that. So yeah, you type in the box, you'll find, oops, right? Type in the box and you will find what you're looking for, and then you link it. And then you go off and you do the same with all of the other people whose kits you have. So it's going to be a bit tedious to do this. I also have, and this of course will be in the recording on the calendar if you want to look back later, make sure your name matches are exactly the same. One of the big pros of it for me would be that you're only maintaining one tree. I don't know about you, but if you find a new ancestor, how often do you go into Family Tree DNA, individually log into every person's kit that you own, and update that tree for that ancestor? You know, so there is a benefit of just having one tree that you maintain on MyHeritage. I've put two links here. One, I'll pop them into the chat as well. One of them is Family Tree DNA's own blog about this process. And the other one is Roberta Estes's blog about it. And she's actually done a webinar as well, which is in a lot of detail. And it might be too much detail for you, but I wanted to link to those so that you could have them if you wanted. Put those in the chat in a minute. But there are some downsides too. I just noticed across the top here, you see it says, to link matches, we need your permission to access your MyHeritage tree. So that's after I've done all the linking and I've logged back in at the account of Family Tree DNA. And it still wants me to sign back into MyHeritage again so that it can link my DNA matches, which is irritating. Now, there is a limit to the free access for the tree building on MyHeritage for 3 months. So if you don't have a subscription to MyHeritage and your tree has more than 250 people in it, do it now. And they'll allow you to have the extra. But then after 3 months, they're going to make you pay for a subscription of some kind to continue using that tree. You might also decide instead to just maintain a direct ancestor tree on MyHeritage and create a new direct ancestor tree and link your people in via that. But over time, that is still going to get into higher numbers. You won't be able to update any trees you have on Family Tree DNA after the 9th of September or start any new ones. Now, I see this as an issue for perhaps the older users on Family Tree DNA. And because it's one of the oldest companies, there will be many, many individuals who are extremely elderly or in fact dead at this point who are on that site. They're not going to have been keeping their trees up to date probably. And they might stumble to do this connection process. You know, it is straightforward if you're well used to computers, but many older people are not as comfortable as younger people are with this sort of thing, and they might just go, I'm not bothered, and do nothing. Then we come to the budget angle. Some people just won't have the budget to go, oh, I have to get a subscription to MyHeritage now as well. You know, it's not a cheap subscription. They don't offer it month by month like some of the other sites do. And you do need to relink your matches if you're using the tree that you already have on MyHeritage rather than importing your Family Tree DNA tree. So if you take the FTDNA tree over and use that, it'll relink all your matches. So if you have, and I have a number of people in Family Tree DNA who are cousins of my parents and things like that, and I paid for their tests. And I will have to go in and relink all of those people now on each individual person's kits. That's going to take me ages. And if I'm totally honest, I don't think I'm going to bother. You know, I'm probably not going to get around to that because, you know, I'm just as an average figure, let's say I know who 30 people are in the DNA match list. Am I going to spend the time going through my tree and linking all those people again? Probably not. And I've noticed a couple little bugs. So when I was linking my mother's kit, I'd done all the homework. And I went back to her match list to see, oh, do I need to do the linking thing? Because I wanted to link a couple of key people. And I couldn't get it to generate her match list at all. It completely disappeared and I had to log out and log back in again. Now, they did come back at that point. But just another little bug with this system. So there's a few downsides. They're ironing out some of the kinks in it. And I do have to wonder, is this ultimately going to lead to a scenario where MyHeritage buys Family Tree DNA? Are we going to see that in the future or not? I have no insider knowledge, but this is a funny step. Family Tree DNA are the only company offering mitochondrial tests and Y tests on any significant level. And there is a place for them in the market on their own, but they're not growing in the same way that MyHeritage is. And perhaps they see it as a good fit. But you know, if it's a good fit to merge this, how long before they consider other mergers? I'd love to hear your opinions if you have any particular ones. We're going to come on to the brick wall session now, but I'll just stop the screen share and ask if anyone has any particular questions on that. Has anyone done the tree linking yet themselves?
I
think
haven't
I
done
might
that.
have. I think I might have because I heard something about when you look at your matches, there's like an FF if the tree is linked or so. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, you see FF if someone has done a family finder test. Yeah. I'll just put those two links into the chat now as well while we're talking. Has anyone else tried it?
No,
No.
guess I better, but not yet.
Well, you got time. You got time. Got nearly a month to do it. But you know, certainly try one so you get a feel for it. There's those links into the chat in case anybody wants to copy them for later and have a more in-depth read. So let's come on then to our brick wall session. Does anyone want to jump in with a question? And I'll caveat with I might not know the answer. You know, we're all learning here. So does anyone have anything they want to throw out? No? Well, it's going to be a quiet class if no one has any problems. Everyone knows everything already. Is that right? Tell me, has anyone had a go at the Pro Tools since last month when we talked about that? No? I have been using it extensively, as you can imagine in my work, and it's really very valuable. I can see that, you know, the way you might have asked someone in the past if you could view their match list on Ancestry. There's just really no need to do that now, because you can see the only reason you might do that still is if someone is descended on a totally different line from a particular ancestor. They would have different matches to you that aren't in common. But now when you go to the Pro Tools, you can see everyone who matches you and another person and what they match each other. So just today I was working on a large group for a project for a client where we've got her family, we've got a family in St. Louis, and we've got a family in County Louth in Ireland. And we believe there is a connection between them, and we can see DNA matches between all three sets, but there is no records that determine precisely how these people are linked to each other. And I've been working on it for a long time. But today I was going through and I was looking at the different sets of people, and I was looking at the matches between those other people for the first time. So I could already see where my clients, we've got a couple of kits on her side that we're working with, but I could already see, you know, who matched her in both of these groups. But now I can see how they match each other as well, which has really added to the hypothesis that all families are related, and they definitely are. And what I'm doing is I'm modeling it in Banyan DNA. Has anyone used Banyan yet? So it's a new tool. It was launched at Roots Tech this year, and I'm fully going to admit that I'm still quite new in learning how to use it. I've taken a couple of workshops. It was developed by Leah Larkin, who also was involved in developing the Watto tool on DNA Painter. But it does slightly different same thing in a slightly different way. And the big difference is that you can use it to nicely validate a tree. So what I've done here is I've put together a hypothesis that the progenitors of each of these three families were brothers, that's my theory. And that one lot stayed in Ireland and two lots went to America, and one went to Chicago, where my client's family came from, and one went to St. Louis. And I'm putting it together, and what I'm doing is, instead of just in Watto, where you have one person's DNA matches that you're working with, you're saying, I think this person is in this tree, and this is the DNA matches to these other people in this tree. What you can do in Banyan is you can import the DNA matches of multiple different people. So you can say, oh, I can see these two people are brother and sister, so I'm going to put that in as an extra validation that this bit of the tree is correct. Or so I can pull across all of these cross matches that don't connect my client to the other people, but connect them to each other to add into my theory. And so far it's looking like I'm right. Now, of course, the trouble is that when you're working with farther back DNA matches, there's multiple ways that people could be connected to each other. You know, so my theory that there's three brothers involved here is possible, but it's possible if it's two brothers and a first cousin. you know, and we're looking at people who were born in perhaps the 1850s. So there are no records that are confirming this theory either way. So what we're doing is we're trying to get to a point with DNA where we're going, well, the DNA supports this theory, and we're not finding anything that particularly disproves this theory, but we won't get to a point where we can say the DNA says this is correct. We're not going to get a definitive answer on it, but it's still a worthwhile exercise doing all of this on Banyan DNA. So if people are interested, I'm going to put together a class in a couple of months' time when I'm more comfortable with it myself on how to use Banyan DNA. Is that something people would be interested in? Okay, good. Good. So we've got another 10 minutes or so. Does anyone have anything else, any problems they want to discuss? They don't have to be a brick wall. They, you know, just something to do with the DNA side of things. How are we getting on? Larissa, go ahead. Sorry, my nose is very itchy. I'm constantly showing. Are you going to type your question? Okay, there you go.
So be very interested in the Banyan thing.
Yeah.
My brick walls with DNA, I've been having problems with. I haven't done a lot of detail because I'm going to Salt Lake in September, first part of September. So I've been concentrating on that, getting ready for that trip, rather than I do have the Pro Tools.
Yes.
But my problems with DNA are so far back that I'm not getting enough matches at that level.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean
So
when you're working with autosomal DNA, when you go back to ancestors before your 2 times great grandparents, yeah, you're into very small amounts of DNA possibly coming from those ancestors. There's an English genealogist who's a friend of mine called Sophie Kay, and she has a lovely analogy called the genetic waterfall. And she said that if you're standing under the waterfall of your ancestors, the closer you are to the ancestors, you're going to get more of their DNA. But further back ancestors only give you a light spray. I really like the analogy. But yeah, I mean, I find that, you know, I'm looking at DNA matches in this project that I was working on there. The range is between, some people are really tiny matches where you wouldn't rely on them at all, like 10 or 15 centimorgans. And then there's other people who are up around 80. And then some of the matches between individuals can be a couple of hundred. So you're taking it all as all together. You're not taking individual bits of it. But when you're working with something that's quite far back, you really are reliant on having matches that lead you in the right direction, and that you can definitively say that it's not some other ancestor. Because when we look at a 20 centimorgan segment, and it could be from an ancestor between 5 and 10 generations ago, but it could also be from an ancestor that's 20 generations ago, which we have no hope of being able to determine. I would say, Larissa, if you're not using all of the DNA sites, that's something that you definitely want to be doing for a project like that. If you're not finding anything on Ancestry, and of course they have the biggest database, definitely dip your toe into MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA. They will, and GEDmatch, of course, they will give you people that are not in other databases. And if it comes to it, then 23andMe, still very up in the air what's happening with 23andMe. You know, I still feel like something could go badly wrong there. You know, someone might buy them. There was an offer to take them out of public trading, which was rejected. You know, I'm not using it a whole lot at the moment. I'm not finding it's very functional because they've taken away a lot of the useful information. I mean, they do now have the shared matches back, but they're still not telling you whether the DNA overlaps anymore in the same way that they used to, which, you know, is less helpful. So I always do 23andMe last, you know, but I have recently advised a client where we haven't found anything useful for her in the other databases, and she's looking for her father. I said, right, we have to try the last big one for you because he's probably dead, but he probably did have other children. Most people have children. So I'm hoping that there's someone, you do find that people who've tested in 23andMe often have not been as interested in the genealogical side of things, and they might not have tested anywhere else. So you do find people in that category. Whereas most of the time, if you've got someone on Ancestry who's interested in the genealogy, you're probably going to find them on the other sites as well. Yeah, what's your trip to Salt Lake? Is it for summer school, or is it just to go to the library, Larissa?
I'll go with a group called Palantines to America.
Oh.
Okay. And so my one brick wall that I really would like to get solved, and this is what I'm trying the DNA, I have tested on all the sites.
Okay.
And I'm not finding any matches that I can take back further than the ones that I already know how they're related to me.
Yeah.
My uncle has one match on Ancestry that may be a generation further back, but that's it. So it's back further enough that.
Yeah. And are you satisfied that your tree is validated, that you haven't got a mistake somewhere in it? You know, if you're not finding any matches to a particular section, sometimes it means that maybe you've gone wrong somewhere.
Well, the furthest back couple that I know for sure are my ancestors or whatever. I have tons of matches to descendants of their other children.
Right. Okay.
I have huge one, but I know who the father is. It's his parents I'm looking for. So it's like matches through descendants of his siblings. But if you go down through his kids, he had like 7 kids with his first wife. And of those kids, so my ancestor had 6 full brothers and sisters. Of those, I have found matches to 5 of the 6.
Okay, great. That's really good. Yeah.
And then from the second marriage, I have a match to one of his descendants from the second marriage as well.
And that'll be a smaller match, yeah. Okay, well that sounds like you're in the right place then. Yeah, that's one of the nice things that Banyan does, is that you validate your tree and go, okay, does this DNA match support this connection? And you know, it does it on multiple levels for you, which is really nice. I need time to set up an example to show you with real people but fake names, you know. But it can be, I think it's going to be a good tool. It's a good tool in the arsenal in the long term for this sort of a project. Yeah, I don't really have a suggestion for you there. If you're on everything and you're looking for everything, you've done clustering, I'm sure, on your tree.
Yeah, so how I've come up with the one match that my uncle has is I've narrowed it down to people that match ones that from that generation where I have that one ancestor and he has like matches to 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked at them to see who they and him match both.
Yes. Yeah.
And to come up with for sure that one match is probably on that line of the family.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds like a good methodology. And then it's down to what other trees. I mean, when I'm looking at the Pro Tools, I'm looking right down to the smaller matches. I'm not necessarily looking at their DNA match. I'm looking to see, do they have a tree that I can, you know, find things in that I haven't seen before that I can then validate. Obviously, you're never taking anyone's tree on face value, of course. But yeah, that's the way I would go about it. I mean, what you might try and do is would there be anyone else in your family who'd be willing to take a DNA test for you? Maybe a cousin or something like that who would be a different descent route, because they could well have different matches to you. And
right. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe
obviously not a child of your uncle now. I don't mean that branch.
Yeah.
That child is useless to you because you've got your uncle. But if you have if you've got other cousins on that side that don't come from that uncle, well then maybe asking one of them to take a test would be useful. Because when you're going back that far, you probably will have different matches, and the variation of what people match might make you more interested in one match over another. And I'll give you a quick example before we finish up. there's a match of my mother's, and she matches him at 91 centimorgans, and he is her third cousin, and we have been able to document that on paper. And of those 91 centimorgans, I seem to have inherited 89 of them, which is actually a very high match for a third cousin once removed. But again, we know precisely who this person is. My brother, on the other hand, has only got 11 of the centimorgans from our mother, whereas I got 89. Now, if I was only looking at my brother's test, I would have completely ignored that match at 11 centimorgans. I would have said, could be a false positive, never going to work that out. But together, it just shows me the massive variation of two siblings on a third cousin. And you match most of your third cousins, but they're, you know, he's right on the cusp of not having matched that guy. 11 centimorgans is, you know, you'd look at that and go, that could be noise. You know, so it's always worth having another generation or another sibling if that's possible, you know. And there's a very good, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard people say it's very good on legacy webinars. There's a talk by Donna Rutherford, who is a New Zealand genealogist who's based in the UK, and she has 5 uncles on her dad's side, and she has them all tested, and it's about the power of harnessing those 5 DNA tests. So I have that down on my list to watch as soon as I can. All right, so we will leave it there if no one has any particular other questions to go for tonight. I am going to pause the recording in a minute, but just before I do, want to say if you're not taking any DNA courses or any of the other courses in the school at the moment, please do go onto our website, genealogicalstudies.com, and have a look at what we have to offer. We're updating everything all the time. I've just done all of the Irish courses and they're in the edit process, and I'm now working on the DNA courses, updating those as well. So thank you very much for coming along this evening. I'm going to stop the recording.